Welcome to today's webinar hosted by Linda Marshall, a thought leader on emotional intelligence and personal excellence. Get ready to be empowered with strategies to enhance your personal leadership and communication styles, and to be your best in both your personal and professional life. Now, here's Linda Marshall.
Welcome to Emotional Intelligence, How to Avoid Emotional Hijacking. Today, I'll share with you some very beneficial ways to prevent you from being emotionally hijacked. I'm Linda Marshall, and prior to opening my business, Marshall Connects, I had an amazing 32-year career at Mohawk College in senior roles and over 25 years on community boards. Working with teams really inspired me to want to give back what I learned over the years, things like what makes teams stronger and what makes teams weaker. And I can tell you that emotional intelligence really is a game changer for your personal and professional development. Here's my book, Giving Back, How to Find Your Personal Joy and Make a Difference to Others. And in my book, I outline some key elements of emotional intelligence. And it was actually part of my journey when I traveled from my role at Mohawk to my own business. Emotional hijacking, just what is it? Well, when we perceive a threat, the amygdala in our brain sounds an alarm, releasing a cascade of chemicals into our body. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood our system, immediately preparing us for fight or flight. And so when this takes us over, it's called being emotionally hijacked. Really what happens is we've been triggered. We also call it button pushing. We notice immediate changes like our heart rate increases, our palms sometimes become sweaty, our breathing becomes more shallow and rapid as we take in more oxygen, preparing to bolt if we have to. It's almost like a panicking feeling that comes over when you're emotionally hijacked. Have you ever felt like this? Well, paying close attention to how you react affects others, and how you seek feedback in an effective way will really help you work towards managing situations like emotional hijacking. It's also known as amygdala hijacking because that's the part of the brain that is actually hijacked. So when you hear someone talking about emotional hijacking, it's the same thing as an amygdala hijack. Really what happens is our emotions become overwhelmed, and sometimes people call it as you flip out. And of course, we all manage things differently, but emotional hijack episodes really can affect us. Our physical, mental, and emotional can become challenged. And it can take up to 4 hours to recover from an emotional hijacking. So if you had one at work before you go home at night or in the morning before you head into work, it's going to affect your personal productivity. So we always want to avoid being emotionally hijacked. Again, it starts with a triggering incident, often something relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. A driver cuts you off in traffic, a teenager pushes a button and upsets you, employee who fails to follow directions. It could be anything, small or large. But the incident sets in motion an emotional and psychological runaway train that can cause serious damage to both your health and your relationships. The thoughtless words, the negative comments, the temper tantrums creates emotional scars that sometimes can never go away. Virtually everyone has had one of these adrenaline-fueled fits where we really feel powerless to control the emotional tidal wave. Think back for a second to your most recent emotional hijacking. Most of them stay in our memories. It's not too hard. You also want to realize that they are positive hijackings too. They're not always negative because, of course, we have lots of emotions. And sometimes if a joke strikes you as something funny and your laughter takes over, it's sort of explosive and you're not able to manage it in your limbic system. And it also works in joy. Have you ever been in a situation where you found something funny that perhaps not everyone else did, or when everyone else started laughing, you couldn't stop? That's also an emotional hijacking. Doesn't always work. But we can prevent emotional hijackings by learning to claim the situation, name the situation, tame the situation, and aim. Yes, we can prevent them. We want to acknowledge that it's your emotion and you created it. Someone else or an external situation might have triggered it, but your brain and your previous experiences generated those feelings. It's important to remember that. We want to name it. What is the feeling you're experiencing? and you want to give it a specific name. How are you feeling? And the greater your emotional vocabulary is, the more you'll learn to distinguish between all of your feelings and work through them. We want to tame it. We want our brain to label it and try to calm it down. So this creates a bit of a gap between the stimulus and response. So if we acknowledge it, then we can reevaluate it. So rather than getting triggered and reacting with an impulse from really below your conscious awareness, sometimes these things just take us over. Before we know it, we're in the middle of a hijacking. And so once we can aim it, once you have thinking in space and you fully understand, because your emotions have moved from your limbic system to the front of your brain, where you rationalize things, you're able to work through the situation. The wisest leaders use their values to guide their actions. So we can recover from emotional hijackings by taking some deep breaths, counting to 6. Did you know that it only takes 6 seconds to redirect your brain? Think about something else. Put yourself in a timeout. Ask yourself, what's the real problem? And continue to concentrate on calming down even further. Sometimes we have to use a little short command to tell ourselves, stop, you're okay. Whatever it is you want to use to get yourself redirected and out of being hijacked. Often we tend to do the same things over and over. And so if we don't look at what we're doing and understand those feelings and emotions, we will keep doing them. So the best way to move forward is to realize that we can create new habits. We have the ability through neuroplasticity, and that's a great part of emotional intelligence. That's why people are so interested in building new habits. And you're listening to this program right now because you want to look at your personal development. You want to make some changes. So when you keep this in mind, it makes all the difference. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation. You've learned a little bit more about emotional intelligence and about emotional hijacking, which plays a very significant role in our lives. And I look forward to working with you further. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation.
Thanks for joining us for another Marshall Connects Emotional Intelligence webinar. For more webinars, resources, and information about our other services, visit us at marshallconnects.com.